The title is not a lie. I am done with Star Wars. Now, let me get specific on that. I am done with new Star Wars. Now, this is something that is not new. There's a lot of people who I would say are done with how a certain mouse company has handled the new age of one of the biggest franchises of all time, if not the biggest. One that, if you could not tell and if you know me as a person, is very influential in my life. It's a joke in my family that Star Wars is like our second religion. But like many religions, there comes someone who thinks that they know better about said religion, and then they absolutely bastardize and destroy what was the legacy of that. And now, I'm not gonna sit here and regurgitate how, Big Mouse has come through and destroyed everything, because there are things that we do have to praise the mouse for, and that is the fact that Star Wars has been rejuvenated through the Disney acquisition the last couple of years, but that acquisition in a lot of ways has turned into an inquisition, because I still vividly remember a time pre-2012 and the Disney acquisition. Clone Wars was still in its prime, but was steadily getting closer and closer to that dreaded cancellation. Knights of the Old Republic was in its prime. We were still getting those beautiful cinematics that came out every couple years. There were still many things up in the air in terms of what is and what was canon, legends, and that prequel hate was still in its absolute heyday, and it was unknown whether or not we would ever get a new Star Wars film. But then Lucas, of course, signed that all-important $3 billion contract, and just a couple years later, on November 2014, we got that first trailer for The Force Awakens. I remember that so vividly. I was a 12-year-old lad at the zoo with my mother when the trailer dropped, and we had to stop everything we were doing, sit on a parkside bench, and just watch it. And oh, how me and millions around the world were rejuvenated. New Star Wars. And then come the following year on Christmas 2015, nearly 10 years ago, we saw The Force Awakens. And though that movie has sort of been tainted because of future installments of the trilogy, I still look back on that movie with fond memories, because I would say I was in the target age demographic for that movie, 13 to 15 years old. And in terms of movies that came out in that time, it was easily one of the best. Now, of course, we now look back on Force Awakens and just call it a reskinned A New Hope, because it is. The emotions that were felt around the world every time a new trailer, a new movie came out. Because from the span of 2015 to 2019, we got a movie every year. Force Awakens, Rogue One, The Last Jedi, Solo, and then The Rise of Skywalker. But steadily as the years went on, let's be fair, it started with The Last Jedi. It was such an upward graph. It was only up from there. But then we started getting wise to the acts. That this new trilogy was not what we thought it would be. What was meant to be a love letter for the amazing original trilogy turned out to just be a dismantling, an undoing of what was a great legacy. And through many messes of directors being changed and swapped out, stories being changed last minute, a billion different reshoots and recasts, we got the mess that was The Rise of Skywalker. And since then, since Disney's release of their streaming platform Disney Plus, we have seen a new medium of Star Wars. Live-action Star Wars TV shows. What started with The Mandalorian, again, a show that started so strong. This first new thing that Disney has done, we welcomed it so lovingly, and we loved it so much. The first season of The Mandalorian, I still to this day think, aside from Andor Season 1, the best Disney Plus Star Wars product that they have made. But since then, we have seen the release of many other shows that, much like with the sequels, were a dismantling of what was. We had The Book of Boba Fett, which ruined the character that was Boba Fett. Not that they had much to ruin anyway, but they found a way. We had Obi-Wan Kenobi. But then we had Andor, and that was fucking phenomenal. But that hype didn't last forever, because then we had Mandalorian Season 2, which for a lot of people I think was probably a really good season. For me, of course, I thought it was really good, but I think it still pales in comparison to Season 1, because I just looked at Season 2 as an Easter egg fest. But then of course there was Mandalorian Season 3, and oh boy, was that just the perfect showing of where Disney is taking The Mandalorian. And then of course we had a show that I have not talked about for good reason, but for myself and many others out there, I would say it was finally the straw that broke the camel's back. I am of course talking about Star Wars: The Acolyte. Now, of course, you can watch some of my older videos in which I kind of talked about like, oh, I'm looking forward to seeing the Acolyte. You know, it's going back so far in Star Wars history. And I'm pretty sure I even talked about it at some point that I was going to react to it. I'm glad I did not commit to that. As soon as the first trailer for the Acolyte dropped, I knew immediately that this was going to be fun. From that first trailer, I had already decided I'm not even going to bother. I'm not even gonna talk about it. I'm just gonna let this go away. And just as episodes went on and on, the weeks went by, episodes are coming out every week, was something new when it came to how the Acolyte, once again in classic fashion, shit on the legacy that was the original George Lucas envisioned Star Wars. But thankfully, although I don't know if it's 100%, the Acolyte has been canceled. Of course, for a lot of people, this is wondrous, a grand occasion. I saw a lot of GIFs of people using the end of the special edition of Return of the Jedi where it's like all the fireworks and everything. Yay, it's canceled. And while it's good that that piece of shit is not continuing, it's not an absolute win because it ultimately just comes down to then what was the point of any of it? It was just a waste of time. Waste of time and money. Way too much money that could have been spent put into actual directors who have passion for the craft and the source material that they are pulling from. Of course, there was other things now that I'm actually thinking about it that I've forgotten about. There was Ahsoka as well. Of course, a couple animated stuff. Ultimately, what it has come down to with Star Wars, when it comes to the live action things, once Andor Season 2 is finished, which from what I understand, Season 2 is just, it's going to be the end, which makes sense. Doesn't make sense for it to be a long running thing. When it comes to the live action stuff, I'm done. I don't care anymore. What really was started with Mandalorian Season 3 was a continuous downhill for myself that I never really realized until now. I mean, it also just showed this is only the second Star Wars video I'm making this year, and probably will be the only other Star Wars video I make, because I don't think Andor Season 2 is coming out this year. There hasn't even been a trailer for it yet, so yeah, probably not. Because of course there's the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, which I have zero faith that it's going to be anything worthwhile. I'm sure it won't be absolute dog shit, but it's going to be anywhere from the range of mid to it was alright, I guess. And in terms of everything else that's planned to come out, Skeleton Crew, I feel like it's gonna get the same treatment that the Acolyte did. Ahsoka Season 2, the parts of Ahsoka that were good were really good, and the parts that were bad were unbelievably bad. You know, I'm expecting more of the same from that. And in terms of Star Wars stuff, I want to see them do more animated things, because that's honestly where Star Wars shines. That's where my ultimate love comes from, is the Clone Wars. I want to see them do more Tales of stories, but not Tales of the Empire, because that was not good, which is so sad because Tales of the Jedi was so good. Absolutely just added so much to the character of Dooku and added even more to the character of Ahsoka. But Tales of the Empire did not do that. I mean, it added more to Morgan, but it doesn't matter because she died already a very bitch death, which is why I feel like they should have had this come out before Ahsoka did to add more to Morgan's character. And then Barriss, a character who we've waited over a decade to see what happened to, I feel like just had a boring, lackluster story, which in my opinion made no sense for the trajectory of that character. And while Bad Batch has had its up and downs for people, for me, I stopped caring around Season 2. And another straw that broke me was the fact that they brought in Ventress, a character who clearly died in another piece of media, and they were so adamant that her being in this would not retcon that, but yet nothing in the episode she was in said otherwise. So that once again just proved to me that even those that we have said are passionate about it, they don't even care at this point as well. All that to say is, where I'm at now with Star Wars, it's sad, but I'm pretty much done. I mean, to be fair, I've been done since a while before making this video. It's sad because when it came to me making this channel, ultimately this channel is about me sharing my passions for things. Of course, be it anime, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Star Wars especially. Now, if you'll notice on my shorts page, I've been doing a lot of Star Wars Did You Knows, just because when it comes to the series, that is where my passion now lies. It's just making quick one-off things, a lot of them having to do with Clone Wars, because ultimately that is where my true love for Star Wars comes from, is the Clone Wars. And that's where I've ultimately reached my own conclusion with Star Wars, is that my love and what I view the true story being is everything from episode 1 to episode 6, and then Clone Wars, Rebels, and that's the story. I'm honestly sick of using the term canon. For me, that is the story of Star Wars. And that was the intended story. Everything that has now been coming out after, I view it as Star Wars fanfic, which when you look at how it's all been handled and treated, it might as well be. Because you look at something like The Acolyte that had a $180 million budget. In my opinion, you can't even tell that, because you could have told me it was a $1 million budget and I would have believed you. Now, of course, you may view this as just, why am I even making this video? It's just because Star Wars is such an influential part of my life. And I feel like it would be wrong for me not to acknowledge what has been happening to it, and why I don't honestly plan to acknowledge any more of the future things that are going to be happening with it. Now, does this mean I'm never going to make proper videos that aren't shorts about Star Wars? Of course not. There will be more stuff in the future, naturally. More reactions, more discussion videos, but in terms of me talking about what has been happening, I don't want to make any more of these kind of videos where I'm just complaining about how Disney has ruined everything. This is just me telling you that my view of Star Wars and what I view as the true story is that. And that will forever be where my passion lies, in the incredible story and characters that was episodes 1 to 6, as well as the amazing animated shows of Clone Wars and Rebels, because that's where my true child spark was awakened when it came to creativity and amazing story and characters. And still to this day are scenes, episodes, movies that I rewatch constantly. And in terms of new stuff that has come out within the last 5 years, there has been nothing that I've had any desire to rewatch or revisit as much as the stuff that came out 10 years prior. And to this day, it will continuously make me sad to see such amazing franchises, not even just Star Wars, stuff like Indiana Jones, Lord of the Rings, stuff that these companies will just pour all this money into instead of making something that actually has passion behind it, that actually has a vision, instead of it just being a nostalgia bait. Hey, remember this thing? Wasn't that so good? Isn't it still good? Yes, it is good. If I wanted to remember how good it was, I would go and rewatch it. I don't need to see it again. And that's why I've been into the world of anime just so much, is because though anime has nothing short of its fair share of garbage, a lot of the shows I'm watching right now are some of the best shows ever. Like, I'm watching Attack on Titan, I'm watching One Piece, a lot of phenomenal shows that have been coming out this season, and I love being in the good right now. And just with Star Wars and a lot of these live action shows, there hasn't been any of it. Same with Marvel as well. I used to be such a huge Marvel fan. People are saying like, oh, Marvel's back because Deadpool and Wolverine was so good, and my argument with that is Marvel is not back. Deadpool is back. But my thing is, like, of course the Deadpool Wolverine movie was good. It had to be good. It's also Deadpool. That does not mean everything else that's going to come out after is going to be good. It's going to go back to Disney proper, which is regurgitating the same old shit. Multiverse, which is a word that has lost all meaning. And yeah, I'm honestly starting to get a headache having this conversation. So yeah, let's put an end to it. Either way, this was my rant about Star Wars, which is all I feel like I've been doing these days when it comes to the topic, which is again why I'm done. Even so, I hope you'll join me whenever there's future Star Wars projects that I care about talking about at all, reacting, reviewing, anything. That'll be coming out soon. So thank you all for joining me on this. I'm Lancer. Thanks for watching. May the Force be with you.